me, the world is scarier than it's been. You take the pandemic out of the equation, you can see it's already starting to rear its head again. You take that out of the equation, and to me, the world is scarier today than it was 3 years ago. What do I think about confiscation? I don't think about confiscation. If it happens, well, so be it. Eminent domain says you have to be paid a fair value. Would it suck? Absolutely. But in that environment, probably have worse things to worry about than trading in your gold and silver, because for them to do that, I think it would have to be really, really, really bad. And I don't think the amount of gold held by the U.S. public would amount to anything in terms of backing a new system. It, to me, would just be something that would only create unintended consequences globally.
In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt used the authority granted to the president by the Trading with the Enemy Act to ban gold ownership in the U.S. More specifically, all U.S. citizens were required to sell their gold coins, bullion, and gold certificates to the Federal Reserve in exchange for $20.67 per ounce, below market value. An important exception was made for rare coins. Gold coin and gold certificates in an amount not exceeding in the aggregate $100 belonging to any one person, and gold coins having a recognized special value to collectors of rare and unusual coins, the order stated. The gold confiscated was equivalent to $63 million at $21 per ounce, or $105 million after devaluation. Andy Schectman, CEO of Miles Franklin, believes that gold confiscation is unlikely to happen unless the situation reaches a point of no return, which he calls checkmate. Andy points out that some of the world's largest precious metal ETFs, like the one administered by J.P. Morgan, have been run by institutions that have faced significant fines and legal issues for market manipulation and other misconduct. Despite this, they continue to operate these ETFs. This suggests that the authorities may be more inclined to work with these established financial institutions rather than resorting to confiscation. Andy also mentions the unlikelihood of the government going door to door to confiscate gold, especially since gold ownership is now limited to a small percentage of the population. He believes that the government can achieve its objectives without resorting to confiscation. They can exert control through the large ETFs, which have the majority of gold and silver holdings. By manipulating these ETFs or imposing certain restrictions, the government can potentially influence the precious metals market without causing a public outcry. We will now bring you clips from Andy Schectman's interview with Arcadia economists. But before we do, if you want more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more updates. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
I still don't think that gold will be confiscated unless it's checkmate. And I guess we could get to that point. Far be it for me to say we couldn't. But I think when you look at J.P. Morgan as the administrator of the world's largest silver trust, amongst other ETFs that they run, who just paid a $920 million fine for manipulating the market, who learned all about what J.P. Morgan is about in your groundbreaking interview with Bart Chilton. We know that their head trader, Michael Nowak, and the guy that ran their desk also, the guy that ran their desk, Michael Nowak, and the head trader, both just got sentenced, I think, a couple of years in prison for doing this stuff. And yet they're still allowed to be the administrator of the world's largest silver trust. You have HSBC Bank. God knows how many billions of dollars in fines they've paid over the last several years for all sorts of things, ranging from LIBOR manipulation to laundering drug money for South American drug cartels. And yet they're the administrator of GLD. You got BlackRock mixed in there with SLV, and you got some pretty shady characters running the world's largest ETFs that supposedly hold the silver segregated and the gold. So they can come in on a Friday night, take those accounts from the cartel banks that suppress the price and do the government's biddings. And it would be right there with a bow wrapped around it. Everyone gets the shit, whatever their account value was worth on Friday when they do this end of business. Monday morning, it's in their money market account, and they can say to the world, "Hey, what did we do? We didn't do anything illegal. We didn't violate any civil liberties or break laws. We just did what the prospectus gives us the right to do." If they go door to door, trying to take gold from what amounts to the pimple on the elephant's ass. Back in 33, everybody owned it. It was currency. Might be legal tender right now, but it's not currency. And so the people that own it are the very, very few. Like Rick Rule said, 1/2 of 1%. How many people, if you show a silver eagle, I know a lot of times you'll have silver with you, and Show someone a silver eagle. It's the reaction is universal. Wow, that's so cool. What is that? Where'd you get that? Really? The US Mint makes it now, 2020, really? And they don't have any idea. But back then it was money. Everyone owned it. And there was patriotism and there was belief in the greater good that the government was trying to do, at least much more so than it is now, where, people who collect gold and silver by and large probably belong to the NRA. It doesn't make any sense for IRS officials, even though they hired 88,000 of them, and a lot of them had to say that they have no problem using a firearm. Does that mean they're going to come door to door and say, "Give us your gold"? Maybe, I guess it's a possibility. I don't think it'll happen, though. I think they can have their cake and eat it too without risking the global backlash of the center of free trade and the world reserve currency activating eminent domain the way Venezuela did. And instead, I think they have perfect vehicle, these big ETFs that the big funds will invest in, or the financial advisors who don't want money taken out from under management to a company like mine will say, no, buy GLD and SLV. It's all you need. It attracts all of the big money held by two banks that are part of the game. So what do I think about confiscation? I don't think about confiscation. If it happens, well, so be it. Eminent domain says you have to be paid a fair value. Would it suck? Absolutely. But in that environment, you probably have worse things to worry about than trading in your gold and silver, because for them to do that, I think it would have to be really, really, really bad.
Regarding the current state of the precious metals market, Andy suggests that the world seems to be in a holding pattern. Despite the world becoming more chaotic by the day, the public seems to lack widespread enthusiasm for gold and silver. He emphasizes that the U.S. Mint, which has faced criticism for not producing enough silver eagles, made over $3 million in August. This and the reasonable prices and availability have left Andy perplexed as to why more people aren't flocking to buy gold and silver. Precious metals have rallied in the last 3 months following a price dip at the beginning of 2023. The World Bank's Precious Metals Index increased by 9% in 2023 Q1, driven by a weakening U.S. dollar, geopolitical tensions, inflationary pressures, and increasing economic uncertainty. As the demand for precious metals is rising, Andy suggests the need for individuals to hedge against traditional assets and protect themselves from increasing instability. Let's get back to the interview.
No, we're kind of in a holding pattern. As we mentioned, silver eagles have gone up a bit from where they were, but everything else is fire sale. And, counterintuitive to me, the world to me has not changed course 180 degrees. In fact, you could argue it seems to be getting more chaotic by the day. But that is kind of lost, I think, on a lot of the public who is not really motivated yet to chase gold and silver the way that they have been for the last several years. And you also have the U.S. Mint that's gone out of their way to push back against all of the backlash that they've received for being woefully, undercapitalized, or underutilizing the ability of the mint to create silver eagles to meet demand. And rightfully so. I mean, it's been a joke, but they made over 3 million in the month of August. So all I can tell you, Chris, it's very befuddling to me, man. It truly is. It's the price and the premium and the availability is as good as it's been since 2019. And yet maybe I just see the world differently. Maybe others see it more clearly than I do. But to me, I would argue that the fundamentals that would tell people they need to have exposure to gold and silver has never been higher. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Because we're way ahead of last year, and last year I thought it was a year that we would never do better than, and the year before that was the same thing. I mean, we've had great years, and there's been tremendous demand, but we've gone through a period of time where, to me, the world is scarier than it's been. You take the pandemic out of the equation, you can see it's already starting to rear its head again. You take that out of the equation, and to me, the world is scarier today than it was 3 years ago. And for the last 3 years, premiums and availability have been ridiculous. Super high premiums, long delivery delays. And now, when things are really starting to crescendo into craziness as we get closer to the election, as we see more and more things developing around the world, and here at home, I mean, all I see in my mind's eye is a need to mitigate your exposure to traditional assets and to own gold and silver, not as an investment, but as a hedge against all this craziness. And yet, maybe I'm somewhat of a minority. I guess I probably am, because all I can say is that the premiums are as attractive as they've been since 2019. The availability is as good as it's been easily since then. It's an unusual time, but this market has a habit of doing things like that, very counterintuitive behavior. And that's part of the reason that the big money has been able to accumulate all that they have by injecting counterintuitive price and rhetoric into an environment where logic, in my mind, dictates otherwise. But it is that environment that has enabled them to accumulate so much, to quietly de-dollarize. How else can you explain the central banks buying more gold than at any time in the past, forever, over the last 18 months, and the price not going to the moon? It is because they are using the suppression of the Western system to run cover for their accumulation of hard assets, for their de-dollarization, and they're using, like in ninjutsu, the leverage of the West against them. And that plays out all the way down to a public who is not only woefully unprepared for what is coming.
Gold confiscation is unlikely to happen in the near future, unless the situation reaches a point of economic or political crisis. The government may be more likely to exert control over the precious metals market through the large ETFs, which have the majority of gold and silver holdings. The demand for precious metals is rising as people seek to hedge against inflation and other economic risks. Individuals who own gold may be well positioned to protect their wealth in a financial crisis. What are your thoughts on the historical precedent of gold confiscation and its potential relevance in today's financial landscape? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications to stay informed about our latest videos on silver, gold, and copper. Thank you for watching, and we appreciate your support.